Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Matrix Live, the show to tell you what's happening in Matrix, the open protocol for decentralized and secure messaging. Well, messaging, not exactly, it can be communications, more precisely, as today we're going to talk about Element Call. And with me, I have Gaelle, Bonjour Gaelle, who is a product designer at Element. So Gaelle, you have been leading the effort from the design perspective on Element Call. Let's start by the beginning. Who are you and what does product designer do at Element?
Hi, everyone. Yes, so as you said, I'm Gaelle. I'm a product designer at Element, and I'm mainly concerned with improving VoIP in general, the calling experience of Element, and also any new feature for Element at the moment. I'm very obviously keen to carry on in that field. And yeah, that's what I've been doing so far. Yeah.
All right, and what is Element Call in the first place? How would you describe that?
So Element Call is essentially a web-based platform that enables users to call using video or not in a very easy way. So it's easily accessible from any web browser.
From web browser, so how can I try it? Can I go to a website?
So we have yes, so it will be call.element.io. That's where you can access the app from any browser on your phone or on your desktop, laptop, whatever you prefer.
Okay, so it's you call it an app, but it's in a browser, so I guess it's a web app.
That's it.
I can access it from my phone, but can I download it on my phone? Can I get it from the App Store, for example?
No, not just now. So it's literally just a web app for now. And then we'll be talking about integration inside Element, where obviously you'll have more capability and to do that.
And is it open for everyone? Can everybody try Element Call today?
Yeah, absolutely. So wherever you are based in the world, whoever you are, you can easily access it via that link, so call.element.io. You don't even need to create an account because it's easily accessible as a guest account. And then if you want to register, you can register. You can share links easily with family, friends, work colleague, whatever you prefer.
Okay, and my next question is more about design and more about the process of designing Element Call. So I guess it didn't just happen because when you leave just engineer with product decision and design decision, terrible things happen. So that's why we we have designers at Element. How was Element Call designed? Did you just come up with an idea and then draw a mock-up and give it to the developers, or was it a more iterative process?
As you will guess, no, it's not just, I have one idea, let's do it. It was all based on a research process with our different user groups. So we conducted interviews with different users of Elements and understood what were the frustrations with the current ways of using calling-based products. And we also understood what they really wanted, what was the most important thing for them in a calling-based product. So from that, we're able to synthesize all the data and come up with a list of features or things that people would be most interested in. So it's really kind of making sure that we're tailoring the experience for our users and that we're offering something that is different from what is currently being done, and also solving all those problems that are not being solved properly currently. So it was really, really enjoyable to have that close contact with our users to do that. And so we released the first set of features, so the basics. And the aim is for us, obviously, to gradually expand on it with new sets of features that meets the demand of our users. And so from this research, then I was able to then create my first wireframes, so wireframes, basic sketches, and then mockups with more high fidelity looks and feels using our design system that we're using at Element to make it nice, polished, and in accordance with our brand. And I had also the liberty to create new forms of kind of look and feel with the animation style. So you'll see using it, it feels very smooth. So yeah, I'm keen to hear some feedback, by the way, on this aspect. But yes, it's been very exciting.
I'm wondering, did you get limited by, were there technical limitations about what you could do, or could you just get your dreams implemented by robots eventually?
Yes, that's a good question. So in design, there's always going to be some form of limitation, more when you're realistically having that conversation with engineering, because design really itself is huge. It's open. You can do whatever you want, whatever you think to solve a problem. But then realistically, that might not work with the technology. So Robert and I worked very closely to understand those, technical constraints. So then we were able to work very closely to implement something that was actually working and feasible, really closely based on my vision, if you can call it this way, but that could be implemented in an easy and effortless manner. I hope Robert will say otherwise, maybe, but it'll be good.
All right. So Element Code is trying to solve issues people actually have because you conducted a survey. It's not just a technical feat, but it still is a technical fit because Element Call is bringing native matrix group calls to matrix, because right now the way it works, when we have a one-to-one conversation with Element, a one-to-one call, it's directly the two peers are connected together. Well, more or less directly, but let's not dive in the details. We have a connection established between the two people. But when you have a group call, when you want to have a meeting with several people, the way Element deals with it at the moment is that we have a Jitsi widget which is embedded. So Element Call is implementing a MSC. For people who are not familiar with MSC, MSC stands for Matrix Specification Change. It's basically a free-form document in which you write what kind of change you want to bring to Matrix as a protocol and how it's going to work. And you need to have a working implementation. So the MSC for group calls is MSC 3401. Long story short, we don't need Jitsi anymore. Group calls can be matrix native, but Element Call is a standalone product. Element is not using the MSC 3401 at the moment. Do you know why it's a standalone product?
So we essentially started with just a standalone app because it was more easy to iterate and more accessible and with less constraints. So as a prototype, if you want, it was a good way to start. But the ultimate game and goal is to integrate it in Elements. So I must reassure you, yes, this is coming and I'm actively working on it. With the core functionalities that you will find in the standalone app, in addition to others to come as well. And all those things you'll be able to find it in the blog that our product manager, Jake, wrote. And yes, so it's exciting. There's a lot more to come.
Right, so you mentioned a prototype. Element Call is still in beta today. One of the most important limitation there is that it's limited to 8 people at the moment. Is it something that you figured would be a good idea as a designer because it solves a particular problem, or is it a limitation of the product that comes from a technical limitation?
Yes, exactly the latter. So it is a technical limitation at the moment that the team is working on. Again, Robert will have more things to say on this subject, but yeah, ultimately would like it to have far more people. So there's a real, multiple experience rather than just limited to 8 for sure.
All right, and Element Call is in beta. So what's left to do apart from getting more than 8 people to go out of beta?
Yeah, so more to come is to allow for more moderation capabilities, such as the ability to mute or remove others from the call. And we have more as well listed on our blog, but I can also say that later, I think it's not going to be beta, actually. That's maybe a spoiler, but hey, it's fine. There's other cool things that we're working on, like adding the ability to use a whiteboard, being able to do more in terms of collaboration, and even more to be expected for customization of the interface in general.
All right, so it's going to be a fully fledged conference tool, just not for calls and video calls. I mentioned the MSC 3401. We are going to be a bit in the technical territory, but not too much. If we read that MSC, we can see that there are 3 kind of intents for a call. So an intent is basically how you start a call from the protocol perspective. And those 3 intents are ring, prompt, and room. So ring is basically so your client behaves like a phone. So you are trying to call somebody else, and that somebody else's phone or Element client is ringing to tell you somebody is trying to call. Prompt, which is a conference-like system. So I guess it's going to be a sort of widget, or I don't know how it's going to be in the interface to say, by the way, somebody is trying to start a conference. Do you want to join or not? And there is a final one, which is very interesting, and I know there is a lot of demand for that, which is room. And it's people familiar with Discord will know the voice channels. I think room is describing some sort of Discord style voice room, where you just select the room and you are in the conference. You are not joining a call. It's just you are immersed in the audio. Do you know if Element is going to have Discord style audio rooms like that?
Yes, that's definitely on our to-do list. We can't commit to a date just yet, but that's also something that I'm actively working on, preparing in the background, and maybe beyond what you can find in Discord, to push the limits a little bit more to what we can offer in Element on that subject.
Excellent. Is there anything else you want to tell us about Element Call? A cool feature that Element Call does before we move on with Robert on the more technical side of how it's been done?
Sure. So currently, so you'll see yourselves if you go on the link. You can. It's really cool because you can really customize the UI with the way that you want. If you want to move a tile to a specific area, you can do so by dragging, dropping. So that's the freedom mode. You can also enlarge specific tiles, minimize others. So there's a real kind of customization aspect happening directly on the UI with a very smooth animation that Robert has implemented so well. It's very delightful to use. I mean, I hope, I think it will be good. And then other things, the spotlight kind of layout as well, which is pretty good as well. It's more kind of the standard layout type. But yeah, just play around with it. It's a good start, and I'm excited to do more on the project for sure.
All right. I remember having a 3 hours long call on Element Call with my parents, who are not tech savvy at all, and I was amazed because Element Call was not even in beta yet, and we had a 3 hours long call that just happened seamlessly, no problem. My parents, who were not tech savvy, just clicked a link and they could join the conference, and we had the call, and it just works, which is great. Thanks a lot, Gaelle. We're going to move on now with Robert on the more technical and implementation perspective of Element Call.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm now with Robert, who led the implementation effort of Element Call. Robert, you are an engineer at Element, working on everything VoIP and Metaverse. You are also part of the Open Metaverse Interoperability Group, with my most difficult word to pronounce ever. I hate saying interoperability. It's super difficult for me. So can you tell us more about that limitation of 8 people we heard about? Is it because the backend cannot support more?
Uh, the backend, so Synapse can support many users. We're just sending messages there, but your client is having to deal with 8 video streams at a time, and it's really about bandwidth limitation more than anything else. So we're in a full mesh configuration. You're sending around video streams to all the other peers in a room. So 8 is about where most people's internet connections top out. And then there's also some CPU usage for each of those connections that makes that a little bit tough.
All right, so full mesh means that if I'm in a call with 7 other people, my computer needs to send and receive audio and video to 7 other peers. So that's
Yes.
the major limitation. Okay, and
Yeah.
I read here and there mentions of SFU and MCU, so I guess it's not Sci-Fi Universe or Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's the solution to full mesh and to get more participants in the call. What are those?
Right. Yeah. So it's selective forwarding unit and multi-point con conferencing unit. I think I got that right. I think MCU is something different. But anyways, SFU is for forwarding traffic between your computer, your upload stream, and all of the other peers in the room. So you reduce your upload bandwidth requirements to just a single stream, which is very useful, especially if you're on a mobile connection. And the MCU is where we're mixing those streams down into a single stream to send down to you. And that could reduce the bandwidth limitations and the processing limitations even further. We do have plans to work on a SFU fairly soon. We're looking into Ion SFU, which is a project. It's in Go, and it's kind of become a very cool and upcoming project in this space. So I'm really excited about that.
All right, and element code. So the whole point of the MSC 3401 is to get matrix native group calls. So the way it happens is in the room you have special events to say I'm starting a call or I'm picking up the call. So those events are end-to-end encryption, end-to-end encrypted. Sorry, because it's a regular matrix room, but the audio and video streams, they are not transported on Matrix, so they don't have the same end-to-end encryption, do they?
So actually, at this point, the encryption, I believe, is off on all of these. So we have a spec out for state events, which is what we're using to signal whether or not there's a call in a room or not. That spec change is out in the wild, and we we're in the process of implementing it, or it's already done. It's pretty close. The two device messages that we're using for all of the call signaling. So in one-on-one calls in Element right now, we're sending them as normal messages within a room. They are encrypted if you have room encryption on. We are now working on that for two device messages, and it's really just a matter of like merging a PR at this point. The only reason why we have it turned off is because we're trying to debug some last remaining WebRTC signaling issues that we've been seeing out in the wild. But we will have it turned on before we leave beta.
All right, so is Element called open source?
Yes, so it's entirely open source. It's built in React on top of the Matrix JS SDK and some pieces of the Matrix React SDK. And you can check it out. It's our vector-im organization, and the project is Element Call.
So if it's open source, I can probably self-host it?
You can. So it is in a little bit of an early state right now. We're using forks of those Matrix.js SDK and Matrix React SDK repositories. Or sorry, not forks, branches of those repositories. So there's instructions in the README for Element Call and how to get yourself set up there. It's a little bit more difficult than we want it to be in the end, but that documentation is there for you.
All right, so it's not like Synapse or Dendrite already, which have containers that I can simply deploy here. I'm going to need to build the thing or to get it.
It does have a container, but it's set up for just our use. It's really we should just do the work to make it so that you can use the Docker container. It's just a matter of like exposing some config options. So
It's almost as if the project was in beta. Amazing.
it is. Yeah.
We were talking about the MSC 3401. It's not done yet. It's still a work in progress. What's left to do?
A lot of it is making sure that it's up to date with the work that we've done in Matrix JS SDK. Just yesterday, I was doing a lot of updating that. There are still some like uncertainties around how we want to do other features that we're not using in element call. So for rooms that use voice and video, then also for data channels, because you can use this to send data across to all the other peers in the room. And then finally, that signaling protocol for the SFU, we're still kind of working that out as well.
So you mentioned data channels, audio and video. So it's a way to share data to other peers, maybe more than audio and video. There could be other thing. Is this laying the groundwork for something else?
Yeah. So I am also working on a project at Element called Third Room, which is a Metaverse client built on top of but it's on top of our Hydrogen SDK. So it's kind of another Matrix client that is for browsing 3D rooms, as well as having audio and video rooms. So it is the Metaverse built on top of Matrix, or one piece thereof of the Metaverse, because we don't believe that there's multiple metaverses. There's one Metaverse that we're a part of. So yeah.
Right, and if I remember correctly, during FOSDEM you had a talk about Third Room. I'm going to leave a link to that talk in the description of the episode. Do you have any final thoughts to conclude the episode?
Definitely go check out Element Call. If you have any feedback, feel free to use that submit feedback button in the app. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback, but if you have any feature requests or things like that, file an issue on GitHub or submit it there in the app. And yeah, I love to hear any things that people like to see.
All right, thanks a lot, Robert. And I'll see you around Matrix Live.